It's been reported that UFO whistleblower David Grusch's medical records have been leaked from within the intelligence community to a reporter for the Intercept publication. According to Stand for Better.org's Twitter, the leak comes from the CIA's Office of Security. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of this unfolding story that broke last night, why would such a leak take place? Well, the most obvious answer is to draw into question David Grusch's mental acuity. If you're within the intelligence community and you don't want his testimony taken seriously, you may pull a stunt like this. But I think the major reason his medical records were illegally leaked was to discourage potential future UFO whistleblowers from going public and testifying under oath in front of the Senate and the American public. This tactic is essentially sending the message to them that there are people within the intelligence community that will pursue methods to harm them if they choose to come forward and testify. Last I heard, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is planning a hearing for September that is slated to be explosive, encompassing first-hand witnesses of legacy UFO programs. This is the last thing you'd want to happen if you wanted to maintain what's left of a UFO cover-up. Here is a quote from Senator Marco Rubio that was conducted by News Nation Washington correspondent Joseph Khalil on June 26.
And there's still a lot of people that I think are starting to edge towards coming forward, and we hear maybe coming forward, but are still trying to see how it plays out for the people that came forward first.
Note that Senator Rubio stated there are, he thinks, a lot of people that are planning to come forward, but are still trying to see how it pans out for the people that came forward first. So in that light, you can clearly see the potential motivation behind leaking David Grusch's medical records. So unfortunately, this recent reprisal that UFO whistleblower David Grusch has experienced and is experiencing is nothing new. And when he testified under oath in the most recent UFO hearing that happened in July 26, there are two occasions where he went into these reprisals. There might be more, but these are the ones I know offhand. And I'm going to share them with you because they're highly relevant.
Mr. Grusch, what about you? What was your experience after you came forward?
Well, it's only been about 2 months or so, so I guess my experience has been overwhelming support from former colleagues of mine that have privately messaged me, and I do appreciate that. But I do have knowledge of active planned reprisal activity against myself and other colleagues, and it's very, very upsetting to me.
Coming from where?
Certain senior leadership at previous agencies I was associated with. And that's all I'll say publicly, but I can provide more details in a closed environment.
Okay.
One of the most fascinating components of David Grusch's testimony that threads through all of the claims that he makes is that he is always willing to give in-depth, detailed information to members of Congress within a classified setting, a SCIF. This remains true whether he's talking about reprisals or whether he's talking about legacy UAP programs, UFO back engineering programs. This is not going to land well for the United States government if they do not throw the book at him and call his bluff. Because he's not just saying, this is what I know. It never ends there with David Grusch. It's always, this is what I know, and I'm willing to give you every detail you need to make the same discoveries I did.
Have you faced any retaliation or reprisals for any of your testimony or anything on these lines?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say in detail because there is an open whistleblower reprisal investigation on my behalf, and I don't want to compromise that investigation by providing anything that may help provide somebody information. But it was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, to be quite frank. Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. As they say, when you're over the target, that's when they do the most firing at you. Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes. Personally.
Have anyone been murdered that you would think, that you know of or have heard of, I guess?
I have to be careful asking that question. I directed people with that knowledge to the appropriate authorities.
Maybe in a, if we could get in a confidential area of SCIF, we could talk about that. But unfortunately, we were denied access to the SCIF, and that's very unfortunate in this scenario.
So David Grusch provided journalist Ross Coulthart with a personal message to share. Let's dig into that right now. Ross Coulthart wrote last evening, statement from David Grusch. I will be interviewed on Chris Cuomo on News Nation about this breaking story at 8 p.m. Eastern. Incredible that a malicious leaker thinks it might be beneficial to their efforts to try to discredit an American patriot by leaking his struggle with PTSD. And let's get into David Grusch's statement. Personal statement for immediate release. The mental health struggle of U.S. military and intelligence community personnel is a broad issue that is very close to my heart, and I believe it should be discussed in an open environment due to the stigmas associated with the subject. It has come to my attention that The Intercept intends to publish an article about 2 incidents in 2014 and 2018 that highlights previous personal struggles I had with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, grief, and depression. Like many veterans, I struggled after returning home from Afghanistan. Furthermore, I was personally affected again years later when a close friend of mine, an intelligence officer, who was serving in Air Force Special Operations Command, AFSOC, at the time, took his own life shortly after we last spoke. I am proud to be transparent on this matter, and am glad I got the help I needed to continue my intelligence career and maintain my TS-SCI clearance with multiple agencies. As I stated under oath in my congressional testimony, over 40 credentialed intelligence and military personnel provided myself and my colleagues the information I transmitted to the Intelligence Community Inspector General, ICIG, and I took the leadership role to represent the concerns of these distinguished and patriotic individuals. These are not solely my allegations, but rather of multiple individuals that put their careers and reputations on the line to report their concerns of activities outside of congressional oversight. When Ross Coulthart was speaking with Chris Cuomo on News Nation, he brought up a statistic, and it was 1 out of 5 combat veterans experience PTSD. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is extremely common with people who have gone to war. And people who have gone to war and served their country should be respected, not denigrated. Indeed, I don't perceive that having had PTSD impugns his capacity to speak the truth. In fact, I would go so far that it is him speaking the truth to power that has led to the reprisals he's endured, as well as his colleagues. Now, I don't know if he's speaking the truth, but at this point in the game, every week that goes by, the United States government doesn't have something like a joint pronouncement by the SecDef, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, and the Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines to say this is all nonsense. Every week that goes by that this does not happen, I become more and more suspicious that David Grusch is telling the truth. And he is very significantly dismantling the UFO cover-up. In future hearings that are inevitable will only help corroborate the claims that he has made. Indeed, I believe this all goes in one direction. 5.5 years later, here we are. I'm currently working on a UFO disclosure update, which will encompass a lot of news events. So look out for that in the coming days. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss that. But before we part ways, I'm going to play the disclosure flute to help usher in a post-disclosure world and to give strength to people coming forward under oath to the Congress, to the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and to the public, declaring that we are not alone in the universe. And there are many legacy UFO programs that have been around for decades, funded by American taxpayer dollars, that have been hidden from Congress and the public. We have a right to know our place in the universe, do we not? Don't forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You can become a patron, you can become a YouTube member, you can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I will appreciate it so, so very much. In the comment section below, if you've watched this point, I hope you have, put in the comment, flute. It warmed my heart to see that you've gotten to this point in the video. I will see you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.